Hey, how's it going? And today we're going to try our hand at making plasma. And this is really fairly straightforward. This is kind of an oldie but goodie, you can think of it as. To get started with, we're just going to go and create a null object. And there's a lot of settings on here that you can play with, so I would encourage you to do that. To get started on this, we're just going to go into properties. And there's just a few settings on here that we need to adjust. Some are, I think, a little more important than others. But we're going to be using a volumetric, so we'll go to volumetric, and now we have this whole range of settings in here. I'm just going to bump up the step size a little bit there, and this one here is probably one of the most important here, and we want to set this to non-pyroclastic. Put a 0 for scattering scale, a 0 on absorption scale, texture density, let's do 50, and a 2. It's kind of interesting that you don't see anything at this point, right? So we don't need to enable, and I think that's everything we need to do here. And let's just come here to edit nodes, and you'll see we've got this hypervoxel primitive. And here there's just a few things we need, so let's just go ahead and get them. Of course, we're going to get turbulence here. That's seems like we always are using that. We're going to get a curve, double click that. We're going to get a multiply, and this is going to be multiply for a scalar. Multiply there. And the last one is going to be a gradient. And there it is right there. So we just need to go in here and make some adjustments. So on the turbulence here, we're going to change this color to white. And then on contrast, we're going to go to 50. Like I said, you can play around with all these values. 12, we'll put on that. And that's all we need to do for our turbulence. It should look something like that. And then for the gradient, you can play around with this too. We're going to leave we just need 4 keys here, and we're going to go from essentially black to white. So I'm going to add a key here, and this is going to be white. So let's do that. Here you can experiment with different colors, but we're just going to put a keyframe right about there, and we will make this some kind of bluish color. Something like that is fine. Again, none of these are carved in stone, these colors. It's just however you want the gradient to look. Maybe I'll bump up the saturation a little bit on that. I'll just pull it down. Something like that. And then here, right about maybe at the 60% mark, right about there, we're just going to make this kind of a pinkish color, like something like that. So you get something that kind of looks about like that. Okay, and that's all we need to do here. And on our curves, we're just going to put some variability in here. So we'll go ahead and you'll notice this goes from 1 to 1. So this is all normalized. So we're just going to put a keyframe here. Whoops, not that. Click keyframe, put a keyframe there. And you can adjust the values here. I'm just roughing this in. And something just about like this is all we need to do. So that you should have a pattern down here on the bottom that looks like that. And then that's all we need to do. And for multiply, we're just going to put a 2 in there. And that's all of our settings. And then all we have to do is just wire everything in. So here, the color goes into the input here. The alpha goes into the A pin there. This is going to go into the emission scale. Color here is going to go into emission. Last but not least, we're going to put the alpha into here, and this into the texture. You can kind of move these. And I believe that's everything. So we have emission scale, and texture. That goes in there, that goes in there. And as far as I know, that's everything. Let's minimize this. You're going to get something that looks like that. And then you can punch in there a little bit. And we can turn the background off, I believe. So let's go to the backdrop and turn that off. And then if we go into VPR, we should be able to see something. And then you get something that looks like that. And then you can just go back on your settings here. And of course this is a 3D object, right? So you can spin it around and look at it in any way you want. But let's see, if we go into the properties here, you can explore some of these. You can make it bigger by the radius this way. So that really affects the size, however you want it to look. You can animate it to get bigger on its own. Here there's texture amplitude. It's kind of eats away at, I think, or yeah, it kind of makes it disappear. So you could actually make it come into existence and disappear. So there are those settings, and there's just a bunch of different ones you can play with in here. Some are more impactful than others. Again, there's the shape here. You can make it a cone, or you could play around with making it a cube. But there's just a whole bunch of different things you can do with it. But it's a really super cool looking effect, and there's so many different ways you can animate it. So anyway, that's all I had for today. I hope you found it helpful. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.